What is your favorite season?
Awards.
Award season. The glitz, the glamour, the pretentiousness, and all the major award shows in film industry point towards the award that seemingly every filmmaker wants.
This is hilarious. Got an Oscar.
The immense length that people go to win an Oscar is immeasurable. But the day before the Academy Awards is the Golden Raspberry Awards. The immense length that people would go to not win this award is also immeasurable. It is the polar opposite of Academy Awards, as in it celebrates the worst of the Hollywood every year. It all began on his drive home from watching Can't Stop the Music and Xanadu. John J.B. Wilson decided that there should be an award for the worst movies of the year. So after viewing the 53rd Academy Awards at his home party, he got on a cardboard lectern and announced that Can't Stop the Music was the worst movie of 1980. A few local newspapers got hold of the ceremony, along with the Los Angeles Daily News. As they continued the show annually, the audience grew with more press coverage. They also pushed it to the day before the Oscars, so the press that were present there to cover the Academy Awards on the following day had something to do the night before the Oscars. The Golden Raspberry Awards, or Razzies for short, was hence born, and so for every year since 1980, they've been giving out the awards for the worst feat in filmmaking. The name raspberry comes from blowing a raspberry. Also, let not the gold in the name fool you into thinking that this is an opulent award show. It is spray-tanned gold. So this is what allows Razzies to be so bad and get away with it. Because if they're celebrating the worst movies of the year, they must do it in the worst award show of the year. They want to be putting the same energy that the movies that they will be awarding put into their craft. Worst deserves worst. So they take a plastic jar lid, slap some clay with gold beads on it along with a film reel, and spray tan it gold. There you have it, a shitty award for a shitty performance. The worth of the statuette, you ask? A whopping $4.97. It has been the same for 11 years as of now. The Razzies do not adhere to the strict guidelines of other award shows. The Grammys in 2020 changed the name of their urban contemporary category to progressive R&B, and there was a huge backlash for it. Meanwhile, Razzies just come up with silly little categories every year or so. It gets to do that because it does not need to take itself that seriously. It's fun and it's funny and it's meant to be lighthearted. You might be curious as to how the voting at the Razzies works. It's relatively easier than Oscars with its whole list of requirements. All you have to do is go to their website and pay for a membership. That is just about it. So the voting process is pretty goofy as well, but I think that adds to the absurdity of the Razzies. They could do anything stupid and it would just add to their grimy aesthetic because it just fits. And of course, an award show like this does not have a red carpet, because who would come to accept an award to this ceremony, right? Well, there is a definitive major acceptance list of the Razzies, which in itself is a big deal, because to own up to your bad performance and to then show up to accept an award for it is just bold. The most iconic acceptance ever was, of course, when Halle Berry accepted her award for Worst Actress. In the 2005 ceremony, the winner for the Worst Actress was announced, and Halle Berry attended the ceremony to accept the honor with her Oscar in her other hand. This is an iconic moment. It is very synonymous with Razzie history.
I never in my life thought I would be up
She
here.
thanked her cast and crew the best she could.
Thank you for putting me in a piece of shit god-awful movie.
It may be a bit overdone, but it's camp, and that is history right there. And another iconic acceptance is of Sandra Bullock. After she won her Worst Actress for All About Steve, she brought in a copy of the movie for which she won and gave it to everyone present there. So I wasn't there, so I don't know if everyone got it, but she claims that she did give it to everyone.
We brought everyone in the audience tonight a DVD of All About Steve.
and she asked them to watch it again and report back to her if it was actually as bad as they claimed it was. But what makes the acceptance iconic is the next day, the very next day, she won Best Actress at the Oscars. Not for the same role, of course, and I'm not here to debate if she deserved her Oscar win or not, but I can outright say that there will be no other Sandra Bullock. Like, how many other actresses are going to win Worst Actress on a day and Best Actress the very next day? Not many. In fact, I don't think there will be another. That right there is range. And the fact that she was asked about this when she won her Oscar and she said she'd keep the two awards side by side.
And they'll sit side by side in a nice little shelf somewhere. The Razzie maybe on a different shelf lower.
You have to give this one to Sandra. We also have the time Jamie Dornan, who I don't care if he's a bad actor, he's a good person, and more importantly, he's a hot person. He was at Conan and he received his Worst Actor trophy for 50 Shades of Grey on national television. So he's a great sport for that.
I mean, you were upset because you loved that the film...
Dude, if they invited me, I'd be there. Like, they just don't. I won one and I didn't even get invited. I won the Razzie.
Alan Menken, the 8-time Academy Award-winning composer, also won and humbly accepted his Razzie, and he put it alongside his 2 Emmys, 11 Grammys, 8 Oscars, and a Tony. Well, if you noticed, he is an EGOT. He's one of 18 people in history to have won one of each Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. But he's also one of the 2 people ever to have won a REGOT, which, if you couldn't guess, is a Razzie, Emmy, Oscar, Grammy, and a Tony. Now that is remarkable because Razzies have a saying, you've not won everything until you've won a Razzie, and with that, Alan Menken truly won everything. Paul Verhoeven accepted his Worst Director Razzie for Showgirls in 1995, and he was the first person to ever show up to accept the award, so shout out to him. All that said, the worst acceptance ever in Razzie history goes to Russell Peters, in my opinion, who accepted on the behalf of M. Night Shyamalan for The Last Airbender, unsurprisingly. Because they're both brown, I guess. It's my prejudice, but I still think the acceptance has aged like milk.
That brown bastard's on film number 6 and hasn't cast me once.
Well, if there is one good thing about The Last Airbender, it's that it doesn't have Russell Peters. Razzies come from the fact that it is done for the sake of comedy. They come up with their own categories and own nominations every year, but it does get things wrong. Like when it nominated Shelly Duvall for Worst Actress in The Shining, but decades later, after acknowledging the mental abuse that Stanley Kubrick made her go through, the Razzies rescinded the nomination. I don't know why everyone hates Shelly Duvall in The Shining. It was a decent performance. Like, I don't get it. Also, when the Razzies nominated a shit ton of underage actors for Worst Actors, I mean, they're kids, so that was kind of wrong. So they had to put an age limit for the nomination at 18. They also nominated Bruce Willis a whopping 7 times, and in 2022 they decided to give him his own category called Worst Bruce Willis Performance in a 2022 Movie, where he was the only person nominated, of course, for 8 different roles in that year. He of course won due to his competition being himself. The Razzies later rescinded all his nominations and win for 2022. Because, quote, it was not appropriate to award prizes to those whose medical conditions may have affected their performance, end quote. There are a lot of issues with Razzie since no one is being willingly nominated. It's not the Oscars where you have to submit yourself for the nomination, so there is always a huge risk of offending the unsolicited nominees. They have also received a fair level of criticism on multiple fronts. The Razzies' light-hearted humor can come off as mean-spirited sometimes, and when you do the same joke over and over again for decades, it does get boring. One thing that I do like about the Razzies is that they have a Redeemer Award. So if you are a past Razzie nominee and you give a good performance this year, you might win the only good award of the night. I like that they have the space to acknowledge that filmmaking is a process, and as much as art receives criticism, the artists are always evolving. Also, there are those fun instances where the same movie is nominated for a Razzie and then another prestigious award like an Oscar or a Tony. It's fun to take note of that. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say about the Razzies. Have a good day. Subscribe if you want. Bye-bye.